Hey, good morning, everybody. So, I have something I want to share. Now, I'm making this video, like usual, for myself, for anybody that actually cares about themselves and their family, friends, and just cares about everybody, right? I care about my enemies, guys. I actually almost care more about my enemies by the fact that I make these videos. I don't just do that. I do tons of things. I go out and talk to people. I counsel people. You might say I'm kind of like, I'm not a police officer, but I'm a peacemaker. And technically I used to be an officer, but not a police officer, but technically a type of an officer. I'm not going to tell you what. It's something you guys probably don't know about me. And my family doesn't even know. But anyways, it's, you might say it's kind of undercover work. But anyways, I used to be homeless, and I technically still in a way am. I actually am. I'm not in a way, I am, but it's kind of by choice, but at the same time it's also because I can't afford. I can, but when I don't work, and by the way, I'm laid off at the moment, and this happens because I deal with chronic pain. I have to go to medical stuff I can't even afford to do if I'm not working. But anyways, long story short, I'm going to get to the point here. This is something, and I'm not saying this to brag or make you like me. I mean, yes, I am saying it, and yes, I do want you to like me, and maybe that's part of it. But the real reason I'm telling you this, because there's something to learn here. You probably already know a lot of this, but until you listen, and I don't want to tell you his name or their names, but these are friends of mine that I've known for over 30 years, 40 years, some of them. Okay, since I was not just a teenager. Some of them I knew when I wasn't a teenager, when I was like 10 or 11 years old or something. Anyways, the point is, this friend of mine, okay, reminds me of a guy that's living on my property. His name is Alex, and I love him dearly, and I wish nothing but good for him. But he used to come to me and talk to me about his problems, and for the most part, I would keep it all to myself, unless I really felt I had to lie, and I hate to betray someone's trust. But if you're going to be a dick, sometimes the best way to teach someone a lesson is to lie to them, expose them for what they are, so that they will be embarrassed enough to maybe change their foolish and stupid way of life. Now, this does work, even though I don't recommend it usually. It's better to counsel someone in private, not embarrass them. But sometimes public embarrassment is the only way. I mean, for example, a child molester or someone that smokes or uses marijuana around their children. I'm sorry, but as much as I know you love your kids, if you do that kind of stuff, if you've had your children taken away from you, now don't get me wrong, I know family court and all that crap. There's a lot of men and women that have gone through shit, and family court and all that stuff, they screw things up more than they help. Okay, trust me, they do way more damage. But there are people that have had their children taken away, and I'm talking about from the mother and the father, okay, that have gone through some awful things in their lives. And I felt bad for certain people. I'm not mentioning who this was. Alex is just one person I know, and I've known multiple people named Alex. So don't assume I'm talking about you. Okay, so I've known a few people in my life while I was living in Ontario that were named Alex that I used to talk to. And by the way, I've had many people live on my property that if you're on my property and you're listening to this, you probably never met them. Actually, you didn't meet them. I've had so many people that came there and stayed for a few weeks, a few nights. It was meant to be a campground. It still is, but of course it's not anymore. It's shut down, but people are taking advantage. But I don't want to get there. Sorry, that's not what this video is supposed to be about. Basically, I'm going to counsel not a young man, he's basically the same age as me, but I would have to say spiritually, mentally, physically, in many ways, he is definitely more damaged than me because sadly, he was a drug addict. But guess what? He overcame it all. But guess what? We all have setbacks. No matter how strong you are, no matter how emotionally, mentally, whatever, we all have setbacks. And I'm not just talking about, let's say you're a cokehead and you went back to it one day. Maybe you went out and had a drink and you shouldn't have been drinking, and next thing you know, you had some pot and smoked something. Next thing you know, you're back on crack or coke or whatever. Anyways, this Christian, who is not a baptized Christian, that's kind of like a person that knows how to drive. He's a driver. He's actually a driver, but he doesn't have a driver's license. So he's unbaptized, right? So anyways, I'm not going to tell you what type of Christian and what denomination, doesn't really matter. But the point is, I love him dearly. I care about him. I haven't seen him in years. I've seen him at a big convention, assembly, church, whatever you want to call it, thing, yearly thing. And seen his wife, who I knew, who went through hell when she was growing up, had abuse in her life, and she's just so amazing, such a strong person. And she loves her husband, and she's baptized, and she's trying to help her husband. And they texted me the other day and said, hey, we need some help. And he obviously doesn't feel comfortable talking to certain, let's call them priests or elders or whatever. So he wants to talk with me, and I'm very honored. And by the way, I'm not talking about his name. I will never mention his name. Unless, of course, and then, by the way, this is not for even, you might say this is for entertainment purposes, my channel, which it is for the most part. But there are things I say sometimes that I say because I truly care about people, and we need to hear it. Even though we know we shouldn't do things, we need reminders. Sometimes we need to hang around people that won't go, hey, let's just go out and have a puff. We need to hang around people that'll go, no, I'm not going to do that. It's a sign of weakness. It shows a lack of respect for myself and other people. That's the type of people you need to hang around. If you want to be successful, number one, happy. And you want to be happy, well, you got to be healthy. You want to be healthy? Well, guess what? You got to learn. And you got to just learn. You got to do. You got to be a doer. And doing is not just learning, but you also got to learn how to do it, and then you got to physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically do it every day, right? And you got to surround yourself with friends, family, or people. And if you have friends that you love with all your heart, even if it's your wife or husband or children, if they're bringing you down, you got to cut them out of your life. Doesn't mean you have to divorce your wife, but you might have to move out temporarily, right? Until she gets her act together or whatever, or vice versa if it's your husband. But any woman, and I've known a few that have stuck by their husbands, and I've known men that have stuck by their wives, that have gone through not just drug problems, all kinds of issues. After birth, they went to whatever menopause crap and all that, whatever. What we all have our issues. The fact that they don't just give up just because they're not happy. They've learnt to be happy. They learnt to grow together. This woman is amazing, by the way. She's not having the issue. I mean, when your husband has a problem or your wife has a problem, you have a problem. I mean, you might not be the drug addict, but obviously you have to put up. And in a lot of ways, you're the one that's the victim more than anything, right? But drug addicts, even though they're technically the perpetrator, okay, they're not usually intentionally trying to harm themselves or others. But originally, that's how it started. You had some fun. Next thing you know, you got addicted to it. You got into a habit, and then eventually, ultimately, this is something that you have made a choice to do, because nobody else forced that cigarette or that marijuana or that alcohol into your mouth. You put it there. Yes, other people probably enticed you, and yes, if you're not strong enough, I do blame those people, because they are part of your problem. They're part of their own problem. Right? So anyways, guys, it's been over 8 minutes. I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but I just thought I'd mention that. And I've been doing this my entire life, okay? I've been doing this because I've been a counselor. I'm basically like a parole officer that is not a parole officer, okay? I used to have people come see me, but the difference is they came because they wanted, not because they were forced to, right? Anybody that's forced to go see a psychiatrist, a doctor, a nurse, whatever, or anything like that, when you're forced into it, you'll never get the same results. It'll actually be worse. A lot of times it'll make it worse. This is why our society, we're human beings, there's no difference between a police officer and a terrorist. They both want total control over you. And it's the same with judges and lawyers and a lot of these, sad to say, psychiatrists and psychologists. And I'm not saying they're all bad, but 99% of them you are, because you're all based on the same force people to do shit. The only time I'm going to force someone to do something is if you're trying to come into my house or I'm walking down the street and you're trying to harm me or my family or my friends. Hell, if I see you harming my enemy, I will physically do something to protect them. You can call that a threat, but I threaten to protect people. If you want to call it a threat, I threaten to save people's lives. If you want to call that a threat, right? That's the only threat I make, all right, I've ever made. And if I've ever said something, trust me, it's not a threat, it's a promise. You will pay for your mistakes, especially if they're not a mistake. If you intentionally do it, it's not a mistake. You've intentionally done it, right? A mistake is something you do and you go, oh shit, I didn't realize I did that. It's usually an accident, right? So we live in a world where, you know, I personally think all threats should be legal. You know what? I love it when someone threatens to harm me, because that way you're giving me warning. It's a form of a warning, but even though it's more than that. I mean, you know, technically a warning is not illegal if you're saying, hey, leave me alone, right? Or else, you know, but that's the thing. You should never say, leave me alone or else I'll spank you. Because guess what? They'll only hear the part, like this woman that was on my property that falsely accused me. Never threatened her. I actually literally warned her. Said, leave me alone. You're making me angry. I feel like giving you a spanking. Like, I would never do that. But that's how ridiculous our world is. And this is how insane, right? And, you know, funny thing is, when you're in court and they put you in jail and you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, and they say, oh, we're not letting you out until you basically say you're guilty. They basically pressure you. This is what the police, this is what the judicial system does. There are so many people that have lied and confessed to something they didn't do, because they got out of jail within a few days, within a week, where they would have been in there for a month, maybe a year. And that's how corrupt. Any person that's a lawyer that works in the criminal section is evil. 99% of you guys are just cowards. I actually am not a coward. I risk my life physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to help other people. I've done this my entire life. And this is why I have such an internal happiness, because I know what I'm doing is right beyond all shadow of a doubt. I've been tested, I've been tried, I've been true, and yeah, I'm imperfect, you know, I'm a sinner, but as a righteous, I like to believe I'm a righteous man. That doesn't mean I'm a good person. I'm a bad man, but I'm a righteous man. You know the difference between a righteous man or woman and an unrighteous man or woman is that the one person actually, you know, accepts their mistakes, does their, you know, works on their issues, and they try every day to overcome whatever issues they have. They might never completely overcome it, but at least they constantly are working on themselves to make themselves a better person, a better man, a better woman, a better husband, a better wife, a better son, a better daughter, you know? And not just better, but we actually do things that we don't actually have to do. Right? Even the Bible doesn't expect us to do it. It's like there's no sin against giving. Well, there can be. If I'm giving you drugs, that would be a sin. But, you know, there's no sin against giving love and kindness to your family and friends, and especially your enemies. Right? So, but meanwhile, I live in such a hypocritical world full of police officers and judges and lawyers, sadly enough, even doctors and nurses, that profit off of the murder of children. Like guys, like I said again, this is not meant to be a religious channel in any way, even though I am someone that believes in God, which does not make me a religious person or a man. It actually makes me just a sane, logically sane. I mean, if you listen to this video, you can tell, like, you know, I'm not schizo, not manic, not bipolar, none of that, right? But meanwhile, if you go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist that doesn't believe in God, trust me, they are biased. Maybe not always, but the chances are very high that they are. Now, if I go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist that is a Christian, they can also be biased. You know, we might have a common, you know, thread between us. But what if he is, let's say, I don't know, a Protestant, and let's say I'm a Catholic? Well, you know, Protestants and Catholics used to kill each other, right? All right, hell, Catholics used to kill Catholics. World War I, World War II. They're still doing it, by the way. So, you know, this is where it's very hard to get a proper diagnosis from someone that they themselves have, you know, biases and prejudice and maybe some form of racism possibly, right? So, and then of course they're also brainwashed by the medical community. A lot of them go, you know, they're human too. They get stressed out listening to people, right? And so a lot of times they'll go, oh, here, just take this drug, leave me alone. Here, take this pill. You know, that's like basically saying, hey, go get drunk. You know, here's some money. You know, obviously they're not going to give me money. They're always there to take. They are takers in the bad sense, in every sense of the word, right? You come there, they get paid by the government, which basically comes out of your taxes, right? It's sickening. It's demonic and it's evil, right? You don't need to believe in God to know that, right? I actually know people that don't believe in God and realize how evil the system actually is. And trust me, this is a very positive video, because you know what? If my leg was bleeding or I had some kind of injury, if I just ignore it, that's actually being negative. Me talking about problems and telling you there is a solution, not just complaining, but more importantly, what I'm doing is actually doing the opposite of just complaining. I am doing much more than just complaining. I am telling you, I know how to solve it, and I've helped hundreds of people. I've not just donated money to food banks. I've not just donated my time working at different community centers. I've helped different religious organizations. I'm not there because I won't help certain religious organizations because I know that, I don't agree with them, but I have helped many types of organizations, non-religious and the such, in my life. And so if you're watching this video, and I'm making this video because anybody out there that wants to use my videos against me, maybe I can reach your heart and your mind. Hopefully I can get through your thick skull. And maybe after you see logic and reason, you'll realize the fact that will never change, that my history is mostly good. And the little bad things, when I called myself evil many years ago, that's because we all have done something evil. Smoking is evil. Using marijuana, smoking it is evil. Smoking bananas is evil. It's meant to be eaten, right? Like the Bible says, we're meant to eat it. Nowhere in the Bible says you should smoke it. Okay? I mean, suffocate your brain. Well, I've said this in many videos. Call me a broken record, but sadly enough, you need to hear it over and over again. So, to you, anybody out there, any lawyers, any judges, any police officers listening to this, I don't care if your name's Mike, whatever, if you work at a university, if you're one of those types of people that are judgmental and want to malign me, because that's technically you're lying, when I can catch you in court literally committing perjury and actually exposing you for doing it to me and your own little followers doing the same thing to me, you need a seriously lesson. You need to be fired. You need to be barred. You need to be you should not be a lawyer, right? And you're bad at it. You're even a bad liar. You're not even good at lying. Jeez, I'm a better liar than you, but at least I use my lies to help people. The only time I'm going to lie to somebody is if you tell me you're going to kill yourself and you tell me not to tell anybody, well, guess what? I probably will, because I don't want you to die. That's the only time I'm going to probably lie, is to save your life, right? And I don't make money and I don't get paid by a university and then expect to get paid again. That's like double dipping and trying to rip off the person that you're trying to screw over. See, this is the sad world we live in, guys. If you deal with people like that, if you deal with people, what's his name? Man Onion. It's a police officer I know. Nice enough guy, but not too bright. These people, they say they care. But meanwhile, because of their reputation, because they don't want to look bad, because they know they screwed up, and they know I know, but the point is how do you prove it? See, that's the hard part. When you get a gang of police officers and a gang of lawyers and judges and people that want to take your property, steal from you, and ruin your life. But meanwhile, I'm out there right now, every day. Today, I'm actually going to take care of a friend of mine. And there's actually some street people I've never met that walk around where I live, where I'm homeless. I live in my camper. And they come by, and one of them the other day didn't have water, gave him some water, no big deal. But one of the girls was in the shop. She has no food. I went and bought her some food. I want you to know this about me before you judge me so damn harshly. It's despicable, it's disgusting, and it shows how petty and childish you are, right? Sadly enough, that's the world we live in. But thank God for the fact that no one can force me, by the way, to identify as a woman. No one can force me to be a landlord or identify as one. That's actually the law. And if you knew that, you would realize, you judges and lawyers and whatever you're called, you would know that. It's a crime for you to do that. And the fact that you let people get away in your courtrooms with calling me an effing whatever idiot and all the other things I've been called, it absolutely is wrong. Even if it's true, it's still wrong to do that in court. These people should be charged with contempt. These lawyers, these different people are actually in contempt. But meanwhile, they have the audacity to try to charge me with contempt. It's unbelievable. So, I'm going to eventually I'm going to put this, because I've been recording stuff, and I don't care if it's illegal or not. I'm going to record it, and guess what? I have news people, news media people that I could easily put it on the news, public news. I could put it on Rebel News, right? I've been actually trying to get a hold of Rebel News, and I want to expose the criminal activity happening in our government. We all see it, not just me. I mean, I'm just nobody. I'm just some little guy. And, I'm basically David fighting Goliath here, right? But you know what? No matter if I lose or not, I will win. I win by, even when I lose, I win. Because I know eventually that God will wipe this evil system away, right? So anyways, guys, this is a positive video. No matter what happens to me, no matter if I win, lose, at the end of the day, I'm going to win. Because I put my trust in, the Almighty. I always have, and I always will. And of course, sometimes I don't. That's, I make mistakes, obviously, and sometimes I don't make mistakes. Sometimes I do stupid things intentionally, because we all have our weaknesses. Yes, I've smoked a cigarette more than once. Stupid, evil. So yeah, I've done certain things that are evil. I've smoked, and I hate myself for it. But I love myself. I know I'm an amazing person. And every day, I go out of my way to protect and serve my community, and I don't get paid for it. And I don't carry a gun. I carry something much more powerful than a gun. It's the greatest shield. It's the greatest weapon that God ever gave to a righteous man. It's called the Bible. And you don't need to be religious or believe in God to actually learn from it. I don't need to be a doctor to read a medical book and learn how to save my life and other people's lives, right? If I'm in the middle of nowhere and there's no doctors to call or nobody can get there in time, I will do the surgery for real, right? I've done surgery more than once on animals, not humans. Then again, I actually have done on one human. I look in the mirror and I go, holy crap, there's nobody around. I had to do it. So anyways, guys, it's been 22 minutes. This is not meant to be a Sermon on the Mount. It's just, I'm feeling very good about myself, very proud of myself, and I wanted to share that because that's the way all people should be. They should be more like me. And by the way, there's a lot of people out there that I wish I was like, and I'm working towards it. I don't need to go see some parole officer or some idiot that believes it's okay to murder children. Half these parole officers think it's okay to murder children. They think it's okay to transition children, cut off their penis, give them drugs, puberty blockers, and the harmful effects that happen from that is beyond. I mean, that's worse than grooming. That is grooming, actually, right? I mean, that's like a form of child molestation. It's absolutely horrific. And it's funny enough, most psychiatrists and most doctors, actually, it's a medical fact that it is technically a mental illness. That's what the trans thing is, right? Anyways, guys, that's the video. And by the way, I don't hate anybody. Why would I hug a transgender person, which I've done multiple times? Why would I feed? Why would I drive them to the hospital? Why would I take care of people? I've actually taken care of homeless people. I've taken care of wealthy, rich people that needed to go to the hospital, and I did it for free. I've helped tons of people. That's how I became their friends. I met this person. They asked me for help. I helped them. I don't know what it is. It's like, I think God put me here. I'm like, I'm an undercover angel or something. I don't know. And maybe I'm bragging a little bit there. I don't want to be struck down by God for being boasting or being prideful in a bad way, right? But anyways, guys, to everybody out there listening, I really do love all of you, even you that are my enemies or trying to make yourself my enemy. I love you dearly, and I wish nothing but good for you. I pray every day for all the people on this earth to find peace and to, anyways, guys, to all my family, Marco, Orion, to all my nephews out there, Griff, right? All you guys, I love you very much, and Daniel too. So, You never know when someone's going to die or pass away. And I'm getting older, guys, and I have chronic pain. And I wake up some mornings where I don't know. I get heart problems, heart arrhythmia, and I do everything possible. Maybe I'm probably not doing everything possible, but I'm trying. I'm doing the best that I know how, and I'm sure I could learn to do things better, but that takes time. But anyways, guys, I hope that maybe you'll have compassion in your heart and maybe get the hell off my property, leave me alone, get out of my life, and stop harassing me, stop raping my land, stop cutting down my trees, and stop destroying my home, and stop stealing from me. It is absolutely evil. You know what you've done. What you've done, I don't deserve this. No one does. Right? And I pray with all my heart that maybe your heart condition will change. You don't want someone thinking you're a see you next Tuesday cunt. If you don't want people thinking you're an asshole, then stop acting like one. Stop doing things. Get out of my life. Actually, if you want to stay in my life, you should write a letter and apologize. And you should pay me for all the criminal activity you've been doing. That's the only way you're going to be forgiven by me. And God will never forgive you unless you make peace with your brother. Everything you do, I'm trying to make peace with you guys, but you won't make peace with me. So, because I'm put the ball in your park, because I've actually made the effort to make peace, and because you want to go through a court system, which is full of basically people that profit off of your pain, trust me, if these lawyers really cared about you, they would find you a place and rent. Maybe they should rent out their basement suite or rent out their bedroom to you so you have a place to live, instead of trying to steal and vandalize my home. Anyways, guys, you take care from the bear. That's my little message for the day. And by the way, I got to get going because I got to go help another person today, right? Which I don't have to do. And it's going to cost me not just my time, it's going to cost me money. And I'm spending it out of my own money, and I don't get paid for this. And I don't expect anybody to pay me. I hope, the only thing I want is I hope God will bless me and help me deal with my pain and my own personal stuff. Anyways, guys, God bless to everybody out there, and I pray for every person on the world, and I especially pray for my enemies. I pray that you will actually, become a better person. Anyways, take care from the bear. Bye for now.